let me check the current information about real estate crowdfunding before writing this script. Real estate crowdfunding platforms allow investors to pool money together to invest in properties, with some platforms allowing investments starting as low as $10 to $100. Major platforms include Fundraise, Realty Mogul, CrowdStreet, and others. These platforms offer both equity and debt investments. Returns vary, but historically range from 7 to 12% annually on some platforms. There are differences between accredited and non-accredited investor requirements. What if I told you that the biggest lie in personal finance is that you need to be rich to own real estate? For decades, the property market has been a playground for the wealthy, the well-connected, and the lucky few who got in early. But something has changed. Quietly, almost without announcement, a new way of owning property has been growing in the background. And right now, in 2026, millions of ordinary people are using it to build serious wealth, starting with as little as $100. Welcome to real estate crowdfunding, and by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly how it works, whether it actually delivers on its promises, and the hidden risks that almost nobody is talking about. Before we dive in, I want you to think about something. The median home price in the United States right now is hovering around $500,000. The average down payment is somewhere between 10 and 20% of that. We are talking about $50,000 to $100,000 just to get your foot in the door, and that is before closing costs, maintenance, property taxes, or the 3 in the morning call about a broken furnace. For most people watching this, that kind of capital is simply not sitting around waiting to be deployed. So when someone tells you that you can participate in the real estate market for $100, your instinct is probably to laugh or to scroll past. I get it, but stay with me, because the mechanism behind this is actually fascinating and the numbers might genuinely surprise you. Real estate crowdfunding is, at its core, a pretty elegant concept. Instead of one person buying an entire building, a platform pools together money from hundreds or even thousands of small investors to fund large-scale property deals. Think of it like splitting the bill at a restaurant, except instead of splitting the cost of dinner, you are splitting the cost of an apartment complex in Austin or a commercial warehouse outside of Atlanta. Each investor owns a proportional slice of the asset, and each investor receives a proportional share of the returns, whether that is rental income, appreciation when the property sells, or both. Now here is where it gets interesting. This whole model was basically illegal for most people before 2012. Prior to the Jobs Act, raising money from the general public for investment purposes was heavily restricted. You had to be what is called an accredited investor, which essentially means you had to earn over $200,000 per year or have a net worth exceeding $1 million. The Jobs Act changed that, and platforms like Fundraise, Realty Mogul, and several others rushed into the space and started opening real estate investing to everyday people. Today in 2026, this industry has grown into something genuinely significant, managing billions of dollars across thousands of properties. So let us talk about what this actually looks like in practice, because theory is one thing and reality is another. When you sign up for a real estate crowdfunding platform, you are typically choosing between two broad investment structures. The first is equity investing, where you become a partial owner of a property. You benefit when the property appreciates in value and you receive a share of the rental income generated. The second is debt investing, where the platform essentially makes a loan to a real estate developer, and you as the investor receive interest payments on that loan. Equity investing typically offers higher potential returns but comes with more risk. Debt investing tends to be more conservative, offering steadier but lower returns. Some platforms also offer what are called e-REITs, which are essentially non-traded real estate investment trusts that you can access through their platform. These function similarly to publicly traded REITs but are not listed on any stock exchange. That distinction matters, and we are going to come back to it in just a moment because it is one of the most important things you need to understand before putting a single dollar into any of these platforms. Let us talk about the good stuff first though, because there are genuine advantages here that deserve serious consideration. The most obvious one is accessibility. A platform like Fundraise has allowed investors to get started with as little as $10 at certain entry points, though $100 is a more common starting threshold for meaningful participation. For someone who is 22 years old and just starting to build wealth, the ability to gain exposure to real estate while simultaneously building an emergency fund and contributing to a 401k is genuinely valuable. Diversification is another real advantage. When you invest in a crowdfunding platform, you are often gaining exposure to dozens of different properties across different geographic markets and different asset types simultaneously. Trying to achieve that kind of diversification on your own with direct property ownership would require millions of dollars in capital. The passive nature of these investments is also worth celebrating. You are not dealing with tenants. You are not fixing appliances. You are not negotiating leases. The platform and the professional operators behind the individual deals handle all of that. For people who want real estate exposure without the operational headaches, this model is genuinely compelling. Historical returns on some of the more established platforms have ranged roughly between 7 and 12% annually, though this varies enormously based on the platform, the specific investments, and the economic conditions during the holding period. Now I promised you the hidden risks, and I am going to deliver on that promise because this is where most YouTube videos about this topic completely fall short. They show you the shiny returns and forget to tell you about the traps waiting underneath. The first and arguably most significant risk is liquidity. This is that distinction I mentioned earlier about EREITs not being traded on a stock exchange. When you buy shares in a publicly traded REIT or a regular stock, you can sell them at any moment during market hours. Cash in your account the next day. Real estate crowdfunding investments are fundamentally different. Most of these platforms require you to lock up your money for anywhere from 3 to 7 years, sometimes longer. If you invest $1,000 today and in 18 months you desperately need that money back because you lost your job or faced a medical emergency, you may find that you simply cannot access it. Some platforms have introduced limited liquidity windows where they will buy back shares under certain conditions, but these programs can be paused or restricted at any time, and they have been during periods of market stress. Do not invest any money in these platforms that you might need access to in the short or medium term. The second major risk is platform risk itself. You are not just betting on real estate when you invest through one of these platforms. You are also betting on the continued operation and solvency of the company running the platform. The real estate crowdfunding industry, while growing, is still relatively young. Platforms have failed before. When a platform closes down, the path to recovering your investment can become complicated, slow, and uncertain. Before putting meaningful capital into any platform, research their operational history, their fee structures, and their track record through difficult economic periods like the 2022 and 2023 interest rate environments. The third risk is the fee structure, which can quietly devastate your returns over time. Crowdfunding platforms typically charge annual management fees that range from around 1 to 2%. Plus various transaction fees and performance fees when investments are sold. On the surface, those numbers sound small, but compounded over 7 to 10 years, fees at that level can meaningfully erode the difference between a good return and a mediocre one. Always read the fine print on fees before committing. The fourth risk is concentration in the wrong market conditions. Real estate is not immune to economic downturns. Between 2022 and 2024, rising interest rates put significant pressure on commercial real estate values in particular, and some crowdfunding investors experienced lower returns or delays in distributions. The long lockup periods mean you cannot simply exit when market conditions deteriorate the way you can with publicly traded assets. Here is something that very few people in this space will tell you openly. The best outcomes in real estate crowdfunding tend to happen for investors who treat it as one component of a diversified investment strategy rather than a primary vehicle. Putting your entire net worth into a single crowdfunding platform is not a real estate strategy. It is a concentrated bet on one company and its ability to select good deals in one asset class over a multi-year period. The investors who tend to do well with these platforms are people who allocate maybe 10 to 20% of their investable assets here, maintain liquidity elsewhere, and leave money invested for the full intended holding period without needing to touch it. So who is this actually right for? Let me paint you two portraits. Portrait 1 is a 25-year-old making $60,000 a year. They have a 6-month emergency fund fully funded. They are contributing enough to their 401k to get their full employer match, and they have an extra $200 per month that they want to put to work. Real estate crowdfunding could make a lot of sense here. They can gain real estate exposure, start learning how the asset class behaves, and build a position over time without needing massive capital. Portrait 2 is a 45-year-old with $300,000 in retirement savings who is thinking about putting half of that into a crowdfunding platform because they are tired of stock market volatility. This is a much more concerning scenario. The liquidity constraints alone make this potentially dangerous for someone approaching the phase of life where accessing capital becomes more critical. The $100 question, the one right in our title, is actually a gateway question. Can you own property for $100? Technically, yes. The mechanism exists, the platforms are real, the legal framework is legitimate. But whether you should, and how much you should invest, and in which platform, and for how long, those questions require honest self-assessment about your financial situation, your time horizon, and your risk tolerance. Here is my honest take after everything we have covered. Real estate crowdfunding is one of the most genuinely democratizing financial innovations of the past 15 years. The ability for someone without significant capital to participate in institutional quality real estate deals is meaningful and real, but it comes packaged with constraints and risks that every investor needs to understand deeply before committing. The platforms that survived the interest rate shock of the early to mid-2020s and came out the other side with decent performance have demonstrated something valuable about their operational models. That history matters when you are choosing where to invest. If you are serious about exploring this further, do not just go sign up for the first platform you find. Spend time understanding the fee structure, the redemption policies, the types of properties in the portfolio, and the platform's performance history through different market cycles. The $100 entry point is an invitation to learn, not a shortcut to getting rich. If this video gave you something useful, I want to keep that momentum going for you. The next video you should watch covers how real estate fits into a complete wealth-building strategy at different income levels, and I think it is going to challenge some assumptions you might have about the so-called right order for building financial security. The link is right there. See you in the next one.